Chief O'Brien dislocated his shoulder kayaking. Lieutenant Worf likes pink drinks. And Geordie LaForge and Christy Henshaw make out in a turbo lift. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 25. Shows used to have 25 episodes in a season, maybe even more. Wow. Episode is called Transfigurations, written by our good pal, Renee Echevarria, directed by Tom Benko. The date was June 2nd, 1990. Where were you? How you doing today, Cirroc?
That's close to today's date. I'm doing great. Yeah. Transfigurations.
So, this is an episode I didn't really remember very much. You know, it's funny. I feel like I thought I'd seen all the Next Generation episodes, but a lot of them I just didn't remember. Or maybe I hadn't seen, because back in the day, you just saw what was on. And there were some episodes that you would see 5 times and other episodes that you saw 0 times. I'll tell you, one of the episodes I saw 5 times was another Geordie episode. So at the beginning of this episode, I was like, wait a minute. Is this that one Geordie episode? But it's not. No spoilers. I guess it's later on somewhere. It's not a great one. But anyway, what did you think? You've obviously never seen this episode before, but what was your overall feeling with it?
I'll say in the beginning, I was thinking, is this another Geordie is weird with the girls episode? You know what I mean? Is this like another one of those? And it started off like that. Like it started off like him talking to Worf, which is a great scene, by the way. Just Worf and LaForge shooting his shit. I love that. So that was a great open. But then I'm thinking, boy, this guy's reputation for not getting girls is getting like legendary.
It's getting out of hand, man.
It's on his profile right now. They got it. It's like when you pull up his Starfleet records, it's like top of the list. Like, awkward with girls, real smart with computers. So, I thought it was going to open like that. I'm glad it had a purpose for why they started that, because eventually we see, that I guess being in contact with this alien allowed him to heal from his awkwardness. I don't know. Is that what it was? Is that what they're saying?
Well,
he was healed by that neuro link or whatever it was.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say that scene at the beginning, I agree. I loved it. Could have used some Guinan. Didn't need it. It was funny enough without it, but it would have been nice to have her, knowing glances and her, these silly rascals. But we could talk more about that scene later. Yeah, and I do think that even Lieutenant Barclay's like, geez, this guy sucks with women. Even Barclay's like, God, George, let me give you some advice, bro. But yeah, I will say that was the most confusing part of the episode to me. Was I thought they were going to explain the Geordie thing a little bit more, like when he left, Geordie goes back to being kind of awkward, or they explain, wow, that must have been something. So what they're saying, in essence, like you said, is that the guy healed him. But awkwardness isn't really, unless it was based on some past trauma of like in 9th grade, he asked a girl out and she dumped him and they all laughed at ha ha ha. And then ever since then, and so he healed him from that maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, that was just the one part that I wanted more explanation for, personally.
Me too. I got left holding the bag on this episode when it comes to Geordie's storyline. I just felt like there was more to be explained. And poor Henshaw, Miss Henshaw, right? So she becomes like essentially I don't know. She becomes the benefactor of Jordy getting some confidence and getting his swagger. So I guess that's a good thing because she looked like she was wanting that attention early on in the episode. So it doesn't look like he used a superpower of some sort in order to, you know, get a girl. He just actually, she wanted to be flirted with, and he completely doesn't know how to read those signs, which is crazy because he knows how to read this navigational info from a strange capsule that he finds on board of this ship, and he's able to dissect it and understand it. But she's like flirting with him, like, "Hey, so how you doing?" And he's like, "I don't know how I'm doing."
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Did you recognize Christy Henshaw?
Yeah, but I was going to leave that to you. I don't know where I saw Christy Henshaw before, but I remember the face. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was she on DS9?
Well, no, she was in a previous episode of Next Generation and something else. Like for me, I was like, I definitely recognized her. And I was like, oh, was she in that previous episode? And I checked and she was, but I still felt like I had recognized her more beyond that. So the previous episode was Booby Trap, when Geordi falls in love with like that hologram recreation that he did towards the beginning of the third season. And remember at the beginning of that episode, the opening, he was on on the beach on a date with a woman, and there was the violinist kind of being like obnoxious and playing with them.
Yeah.
That was her.
Yeah.
And then she ends up going, "Oh, no thanks," or whatever, and kind of walking off. So that was her. And that's why they picked up where they left off with that storyline of him kind of having a crush on her and, not really working too well. So that's who Christy Henshaw is.
Oh, okay. So that even makes it more confusing for me. That doesn't help me.
Yeah,
And the reason it doesn't help me is because I don't know. So they already went on a date. He already worked up the nerve to talk to her. It went awkward. And then it seems like her vibe is different at this point in this episode because it wasn't the same as the last vibe that we saw her end on. I thought that's kind of makes it a little bit more confusing for me.
Yeah, let me see if I can find a picture of it's kind of a little grainy, but here it is, just to recall. The two of them looks like they're kind of watching the reverse sunset. They're like backlit and they're sitting on the beach, and this pirate was playing the violin for them. So anyway, so that's Christy Henshaw, but she still looked familiar to me. So I looked her up a bit more. Her name is Julie Warner, actress Julie Warner. And then it hit me. I saw immediately what she is known for, or to me, Tommy Boy with Chris Farley, the very first Chris Farley movie with David Spade and a bunch of others. I must have seen that movie 20 times. Hilarious. Yeah. Very, very quotable movie. She is the main love interest in Tommy Boy. So that's what I recognized her from. See, check this out. Here's a shot from that. There she is. Good old Chris Farley.
Yeah. I knew she had a familiar face. I don't think I would have remembered her from the Booby Trap episode, but probably more likely from Tommy Boy, which I too owned a DVD copy of.
Oh, nice.
With other Chris Farley movies. Beverly Hills Ninja?
Yes. And was that his second or third? The second one was, damn, I can't remember. But anyway, he had Tommy Boy, then a second one, then Beverly Hills Ninja, I think was the third, but they were all good ones.
They were all good. Chris Farley was funny. I loved him from Saturday Night Live when he did that skit where he played a talk show host, and he would always say, "You remember when? you remember when you
you remember that time that you and Ali Sheedy were talking in the thing, and the guy's like, yeah, I remember that." He goes, "That was awesome." That was awesome, man. He'd be like, "Ah, so stupid." Yeah, no, Chris Farley is
He was such
maybe
a
my
good
favorite SNL guy ever.
one of them. He's up on that list. He's on the goat mountain of SNL. But yeah, and his movies were funny to me. That was during that whole Adam Sandler time too. Adam
Yep.
Sandler was killing it during that time as well.
Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. Yeah, those were all
Yes,
happening. Yeah, good stuff.
yeah, they were all happening at the same time. But yeah, back to this episode. It's so bad that even Riker says, "Hey, I don't remember you being hot with the ladies before." Something like, what did he call? He calls out Geordi in the turbo left, like, "I don't remember Miss Henshaw ever liking you," or something. Something that's like kind of like
Yeah, poor
like his
Geordi.
reputation has spread across. Even the captain's like, "Geordi, what are you doing? I don't expect you to." It's like, whoa, this is
It's
made it to
funny
the
because
highest echelon.
I didn't remember. And by the way, that second Chris Farley movie was Black Sheep. So
Oh yeah,
it
oh
was
yeah,
Tommy Boy, then Black Sheep, and then Beverly Hills Ninja.
yeah.
But I didn't remember Geordi being so bad with the ladies. Like I remember the fans talking about how bad he was with the ladies based on the episodes. But I had forgotten that in the episodes themselves, even the crew's like, "Oh boy, Geordi doesn't know what the heck. He doesn't know whether to shit or go sailing with women. He doesn't know anything."
Didn't we just see Wesley saying
Oh,
something to him in like an episode or two ago? Wesley even called him out in that moment where it's like, well, at least I can, at least I get a date with. I don't have to date a holosuite program or something to
yeah.
that
And he's
effect.
like, "At least my idea of a Friday night isn't sitting with a good book."
When
Oh
Wesley,
man.
that was before he even got his uniform. Still, you know,
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So
oh
I
man,
didn't remember this. I didn't remember him getting healed. I didn't remember, this guy's outfit here.
yeah, this guy's outfit is a whole segment by itself. We might have to pick that up on second half. Or I don't know. It was too much for me.
Too much what? Too much fabric?
uh, yeah, it was too tight and too revealing. It was almost like a see through. Almost it wasn't the kind of thing that you want to be wearing as an adult male. It was
You
too
know,
revealing.
what's funny about that is that just a week ago, I saw a meme and I should have saved it because I didn't realize it was just for this next week's episode. But I saw a meme in a Star Trek group where it says like, basically the way Star Trek is they heal up a guy and the guy's like, "Hey, do you have any spare clothes I can wear?" And then Star Trek, gives him this, like, which is,
Yeah.
it's such a Star Trek thing to do where it's like, why don't they just give him like jeans and a t-shirt? Let him they're like, oh, here we nursed you back to health and saved you. Oh, you need clothing. Yeah, we got just the thing for you, pal. Here, why don't you put in? And he's like, why can't I wear what, all everybody else, everybody, no, why do I got to wear this crap? Anyway.
Well, I have a theory about that. I actually thought this one out. This is what I spent my time thinking about in this episode, ironically. But I thought Dr. Crusher, which is a great name for her in this episode because she has a
Yeah.
super crush. She is a Dr. Crusher in this particular moment. Uh, Dr. Crusher says, "Hey, I like this guy. There's something about him that fascinates me and I'm attracted to, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is." And then she picks out that outfit. She wants to see what's going on. And she's like, "I think Wesley has an old outfit somewhere." Yes.
From when he was 13 that he could squeeze
Yes.
into.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, it's
That's
too
what I'm
tight. Let's
seeing.
peel it off.
That's what I'm seeing. That's totally a Wesley
Yeah.
style. That's what's one of his styles. And she pulled it out and said, "You know what? I remember Wesley when this got too small for him. Maybe it's too small for this
It,
John Doe over here."
it kind of looks like a Bashir racquetball outfit too. But
Yeah, yeah.
here's something. So this episode had a lot of great things to it. and it felt like this episode may have had some kind of edits or cuts or something, because the Crusher crush on John Doe never went anywhere. And I expected it to. And then Geordi's, situation with women didn't quite go anywhere. It's like it had all these great elements and like a B story and a C story, and they never quite fully. I mean, obviously it all worked because we understand what happened at the end. But I was curious. I wanted to know more, like, oh, is Beverly Crusher going to pursue this? Is this going to resolve in some way? Is Geordi going to go back to how he was? What's going to be the resolution? We got the perfect resolution for the A story. It all worked perfectly. But the problem is a lot of these writers may not know, but the nerds like me, we pay attention to every single detail. And if you give us a little side scene for one of our favorite characters, we go, oh, I want to know more about that. So it's like,
absolutely,
we're kind of never happy. We're kind of like, I want a B story so we can explore more of these other characters. But then we're also like, well, that wasn't enough. It's like, when are you going to be happy? But that's just kind of how we are sometimes.
yeah, and I'm with you on that too, because I felt like the Dr. Crusher, we haven't seen somebody really that she has been attracted to aside from Picard, right? I think that's the only other person we've really seen
There was like
so
also a
far.
terrorist, a few weeks back. Remember there was like a terrorist that captured her. I feel like they had an attraction. I mean, they certainly got along okay. I don't remember if they actually went into full blown attraction, but yeah, other than that, we just know that she likes Picard. That's it.
Yeah, and it would have given me like, I was starting to get like a sense of the kind of guy she would like, essentially, by seeing this guy. And I was wondering, what is it about him that she, is it the mystery? What is it about his personality that she says, I'm attracted to this person, and would really this kind of step out of bounds from just her professional, so I don't know what that was. I couldn't, even after watching this episode, pinpoint a charm about him necessarily. It was more of a mystery. Um, so
Well,
yeah, I that was
yeah,
difficult for me.
that's a really good thought. Like that makes me want to like say, okay, well, she's attracted to Picard, she's attracted to this John Doe guy. What do they have in common? One thing I'm seeing is that, Picard's got a lot of wrinkles all over his neck. This guy's got the wrinkles on his face. Maybe that's a no, but in seriousness, um, I think, look, they both have a certain calm and
Okay.
confidence, compassion that this guy shows more than Picard. Picard's is only coming out recently, but it feels like it's like an inner strength, a calm, a confidence. I think that's the only thing I can see between the two of them. Otherwise, they are two pretty different types.
I would say, and now that we're talking about it, something else that kind of pops up to mind is that Picard is an enigma. He's kind of a puzzle to Crusher. Like she's trying to figure out what makes him work, right? It's kind of, we as the audience are still trying to figure it. We know he likes Shakespeare. We know he's into this. We know that he's compassionate in moments, but he's also serious at other times. But we're still trying to find out what makes him tick. Like what is his thing, and um, it's still not evident, right? He's still a puzzle. He's still an enigma. He's still like there still feels to be there's more layers to pull back of Picard. Like he's a really a deep kind of character, and I think that is also something I do get from this John Doe character. There was this like there was more to pull back. There's more to reveal. There's something underneath this. There's something bigger. There's like this. I can keep digging and finding something. And at the end of the episode, we see that he is this kind of transformed character in this way. So I think maybe the enigma part is what she likes. The puzzle.
Yeah, I think the toughest part of this episode must have been his evolution, because he turned into you know, a ball of energy guy, right?
Yeah,
Basically in 45 minutes. So they kind of had to demonstrate that evolution bit by bit by bit for us to believe, like, wow, that was quick. You know, I'm such a jerk too, because my first thought is when they turned him into the ball of energy guy, I always like look in and try to zoom in. I'm like, I can see wrinkles on his sleeve. I can see folds from the outfit, you know. Like, come on, it's 1990. Give him a break. But that's what I do.
yeah. Well, it's funny when you said ball of energy. I was thinking that's what his costume reminded
What, what do you mean?
No. We got to
Yes, the
segue. I got to
old
segue. I got to
ball of
segue
energy.
to O'Brien.
Yes.
And I thought O'Brien is always a ray of sunshine for me. It's a moment of fresh air when I get to see Miles O'Brien caught up in his own thing. You know what I mean? It's always O'Brien is in his own thing,
Yeah.
really. Everybody's going around like, the ship's going this, and he's like, I'm in my thing.
You know what it is? He is the star of the O'Brien show on the Enterprise.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
sits there 23 and a half hours a day in the holodeck, or not in the holodeck, in the transporter room, just kind of sitting there fantasizing about, like, and then I'm going to go kayaking and hurt my shoulder, and I chew gum sometimes. It's infused with scotch, and he's doing all this stuff. And then everyone's, oh man, here comes the action. Here comes, oh, Riker and Picard are here. Here comes, and they just go, energize. And fucking energize. All you ever care about is energize. And okay, energize. And he's like, all right, so what's next, Captain and Commander? What do we? And then they walk off, and then he's like, okay. But yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
the O'Brien is the star of the O'Brien show, and
Of the O'Brien show.
it's such a treat every time he's on the screen for me. Like, and I saw his name show up at the bottom of the screen beforehand. It said Colomina. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, we're gonna get an O'Brien. I'm just so grateful that they kept figuring out ways to include Colomini in this show. And then obviously it turned into what he got on Deep Space Nine, because he was so charming and likable. They just kept bringing him back. And I'm just so grateful that they did, because every time he's on screen, I'm happy. I'm very happy.
I'm happy too when I see him. I'm like, oh, the O'Brien show's back. And the thing is, I guess he lives in these hollow suites because Deep Space Nine really explored that as well, right? And now we see this guy really lives inside these hollow suites. You know, he's there all the
The
time.
transporter room?
No, the hollow suites, because he was kayaking, right?
Oh, right. That's right. And then
Yeah.
he and Bashir were always
Yes.
playing. You're right.
Yeah. So like he really is kind of like, like trying to find adventure in his life. You nailed it when you talked about his transporter room kind of boringness, right? Because he's always doing some boring stuff essentially. And so you see that he seeks adventure a lot in the hollow suites. He's always doing something in there.
Mm-hmm. You know, we got to jump to our break right now, but there was also a major cameo from one of our favorite guests on the Seventh Rule. Uh, who was that? Well,
Yeah.
we'll tell you in a moment. On the other side, we'll be right back on the Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc, the Game Changer Lofton.
Yeah, hello.
Here are the trivioids of the episode, everybody. Check them out. Go a little something like this. Lieutenant Worf gives Geordi dating tips. I'm going to get stopped right there. It is the scent that first speaks of love. Gross. Dr. Crusher connects Geordi's nervous system to some rando. A nurse brings Beverly a glass of water. Lieutenant Worf likes pink drinks. He kept drinking pink drinks. Geordi takes Christy Henshaw to the Arboretum. John Doe is 6 weeks ahead of Dr. Crusher's schedule. Geordi and Christy Henshaw make out in a turbo lift. Chief O'Brien dislocated his shoulder kayaking. Beverly seems a little taken with John Doe. And Data and Geordi find a pulsar 2.3 parsecs away.
Okay. Oh, very good.
What's
very
funny
good.
about that one was when I typed it, I accidentally typed Pardek, which is funny because Pardek is a character in The Next Generation that will be coming up later on. Good character. Okay. So the cameo.
Can we talk about? Oh,
no, go ahead.
Yes.
What do you got?
I thought, before I forget, I wanted to talk about Geordi volunteering for the brain freeze project. Like, like first you got to explain to me what I'm volunteering for. She's like, I need to volunteer. He's like, sure, I'll do it. I'm like, whoa.
I'm in. I got nothing to live for. Women hate me. Give it to me.
What the hell? Give me a rundown. I'm going to need your brain. I'm going to use your brain for like 5 minutes. It's going to be turned off, like, or something. Like, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. My brain.
You know what would have been cool is if maybe Geordi's just working for another promotion because he's getting promoted like gangbusters. So what if he goes, she's like, I need a, was Picard there? Or was it just Riker? I think it may have just been Riker, but it was good cruise. It was, let me see. Yeah, Riker, Data, Geordi, and Beverly. So what if he goes, she says, I need a volunteer. And Geordi goes, yeah, I'll do it. And he looks over to Riker and be like, kind of like, so you see how I volunteered that fast? That's a team player. What do you think, Reiki? But Riker was not impressed. I mean, it's obviously going to be him because Data can't do it. Beverly can't do it to herself. Riker's in charge. Right. She doesn't need a volunteer. It's Geordi. She's like, it's kind of like one of those things where she's like, whoever wants to do it, take one step forward, and everybody else takes one step back. It's kind of like one of those things.
Yeah, Geordi got signed up for a mission where I was like, well, I don't know exactly what he's signing up for. I thought it was one of those episodes where, that, was it Big, or one of those episodes where the adult switches, where they switch bodies, basically, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I thought it was going to be one of those switching body moments where Geordi's brain goes into that guy.
Like Freaky Friday kind of thing.
Yeah, those kind of movies. Big, I thought of Big with Tom Hanks, but I don't know if that was a similar concept. But
it's a fantastic movie, though. That's a really good movie.
One of the great movies, yes. I always think of them playing that piano that you stand on.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
When I think of Big, I remember this scene when he's like first moved to New York, or he's in his first little apartment or something, and he's just hearing like the gunshots outside and all this stuff, and he's like closes the window and he's all scared. I'm like, that is a very good depiction of if a kid were stuck in an adult body in the big world of New York and it's scary and all that. I thought that was really good. So
I also think of that Zoltar machine.
Yes.
Give me a quarter and I'll tell you your fortune. That machine. So yeah, but that's
the fortune should be a fool and his money are easily separated. Okay. Yeah. So,
you were going to tell us the big reveal about who is this?
So, it was actually, you know what? Give me a second and I will show it. But until I do.
Now, this is somebody that was in makeup or not in makeup?
I mean, kind of really. In makeup. I mean, they're all in some kind of makeup, right?
Yeah, I missed it. I missed it, though, whoever this person is.
Well, yeah, and
I don't know.
Here's something I noticed from this director, by the way, because this is what that leads into. That director they do this in soap operas a lot. When I was doing like background and featured gigs and soap operas and stuff, they would do this all the time, which is to open a shot, they would follow a background person. You know what I mean? Like, It's kind of like shot opens, somebody's walking over to the bar, and then they ask the bartender for a drink, but then Worf and Geordi walk in, and then blah, 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 blah. This director loved that stuff. He did that a lot. So one of those scenes in 10 Forward, I believe it was. I think it was when when Geordi was starting to feel pretty good about himself. So
Yeah.
first, there's this guy, and he's talking to these people. That's how the shot opens. This guy right here, that you may or may not recognize.
Okay. I
And then
don't recognize.
And then he walks away from those two, and you can recognize him a little bit more easily when he starts walking away. It's Mr. Doug Drexler, everybody. Doug Drexler.
Oh my God, that
Can you
is
believe
Doug
it?
Drexler.
That's Doug. Looking all ripped as always.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, was that Doug freaking Drexler?
Wow.
So he was in that episode. I know he was also in like an Enterprise episode that was cool. But anyway, so that's pretty cool. He's probably just like one day he's like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll put on a red shirt and walk over. And I looked for him for the rest of the scene, but I didn't really see it. That was a lot of fun. Good to see him.
Oh man, that was good. I totally missed that. But you can see that it's him unless he photoshopped himself in the episode, which would be amazing too.
That would be impressive.
That would be impressive.
Oh,
yeah, you know what?
I was just going to say, he even had a picture. I just Googled it real quick just to see. He even has a picture of him posing in that uniform.
Yeah.
Yep, that's 10 Ford right there. That's cool. Good for him.
That's great. Yeah, I missed that. I would have liked to, have seen it, but we love Doug Drexler.
Great dude.
You know what moment I loved as well in this episode? I love the moment that I thought Wesley and his mom having this kind of an adult moment where Wesley was kind of, calling his mom out on his having a crush.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good scene as well. It kind of showed me the growth in Wesley's character development over the years. Because I remember, I see him as this kid because he started off like a kid, but as in that particular scene, there was a level of like maturity to him. Now he's wearing his red Starfleet uniform, and just the conversation was kind of on a more of an adult conversation.
Yeah.
I think,
and his mom's crush is wearing his hand-me-downs.
Yes. So it actually elevated him even more. But he says to his mom, he says, seems like those, there's a little bit more than that to it, or more to it than that. When he was calling out his mom for like, she's like, oh, it's just a, patient relationship. He was like, yeah, I don't know about that. I like that. And it was holding his mom kind of feet to the fire a little bit and holding her, the mirror up to her, holding her accountable, because she's always holding other people accountable. So when she gets her number called, it was good to see her react to that and kind of have humility about it, and it was a humbling thing for her to kind of get called out by her son.
And you'll notice that we saw the shuttlecraft El-Baz again. I think you had noticed it the first time, either in the first or second season, and we looked it up. Cirroc El-Baz is an Egyptian-American space scientist and geologist who worked with NASA in the scientific exploration of the moon and the planning of the Apollo program. He's still around. He's 86 years old. So that was cool. I was like, hey, El-Baz, that's right. You caught that the first time. And now I'm following in your footsteps. I'm getting your hand-me-downs like John Doe and Wesley Crusher. So that was a lot of fun. And, it always makes us think of our good friend, Dr. Mohammed Noor, if there's an Egyptian-American scientist. So big shout out to him.
Yes.
We could have used him in this episode a little bit. At the beginning, when they were talking about all this like biological stuff and medical stuff, I was like, uh-oh, do we need Anne-Marie or Muhammad here? Because is it going to be one of those episodes? But it wasn't too hard. It wasn't too bad.
It was a little bit heavy on the technobabble stuff. This episode, I wrote it down like a couple of times, like technobabble, because I wasn't about to write all these lines down, because it's bad enough to hear technobabble, but for me to pause it and write it is almost it's even more difficult. That's why I give you props every time you use one. You know what I mean?
I didn't write any of this stuff either, because luckily it was not necessary for the plot. It was you need that stuff in there,
Yes.
But the
Yes.
viewer doesn't need to understand every word. It's just sometimes you need to follow it because it's that kind of episode, and other times you just go, okay, they're explaining medical stuff because they have to, not because it's like necessarily part of it. Also, there was a really good
Yeah.
stunt by Worf. Well, Worf's stunt double,
Oh
presumably,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
he like jumped up, comes down, hits the railing, flips backwards. I'm like, did they like plan it like that, or did they jump up and he meant to miss the railing, but then he hit it, flipped, and so then they went with it in the next scene. I don't know which one, but I think they probably just planned that stunt out. And obviously, shout out to Dennis Madalone for doing that, because
Yeah.
that was a great stunt. I watched it like 5 times. I was very pleased with that. And shout out to Worf's stunt double for doing that.
100% agree with that one too. And I was actually looking to see if I can see the stunt double, but it was well cut because I couldn't tell that wasn't Worf doing it. Right. Really well done, I thought, on that behalf. Wrote it down in my notes too. The whole stunt move was exceptional. So yeah, shout out to Dennis Madalone, Mr. Danger. Um, Also love Worf when he says less talk, more synthahol. Like he gets real pouty sometimes.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the king of the pout.
But see, he's at least he's coming out of his own shell now. Remember before he was all uptight, and ever
Yeah.
since Guinan gave him that prune juice, now he's smooth. He's letting it all hang out. He's like, hey, we're here to party. His pink drink was probably just watered down prune juice so that he can enjoy like 10 of them. You know, he's like, I'll take my prune juice and water, and they go, do you want it neat this time? No, 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 with water. He treats it like it's whiskey or scotch.
Then he says something stupid to Data. I've been tutoring him. He learns very quickly.
That was funny. I liked it. Good
Gosh,
delivery is funny for us to
Worf
enjoy.
tutoring. Yeah.
I'm looking
It's just
for
comedian.
I'm looking for Worf's stunt double right there, but I cannot find him. Anyway, just wanted to
Yeah.
credit that guy, but yeah, I'm not seeing him in the. Oh well, bummer.
He did a great
Anyway,
job.
Worf
Did a
stunt
great
double,
job.
great job, yeah.
Sold that for me.
Mhm.
Now this alien species, the Zalconians, do we see them again, or is this the one and done for Zalconians?
I don't recognize them, so I don't think we get any more. I'll check.
Yeah.
If anything, I would think that maybe Lower Decks would have them in something. You know what I mean? Because they're like really good about that.
Yeah.
Looking them up, nope, just the one episode, and that is. Oh wait. Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, just this one episode. But that's a good one for Lower Decks to bring back one of these days.
That's a good callback because you can call back one of the either enlightened, transformed Zalconian, or you can bring back the other Zalconian that's transformation.
True.
So
There's
either
two
the light
kinds now.
beams, yeah, exactly. Which I thought was a great concept in general for Renee. Just I guess you start with an idea a simple kind of concept like, oh, what about these alien species that are going through? What I wrote in my notes was something like a transformation, like a caterpillar going to a butterfly, right? So
Yeah.
that's where we see it. At least I would see it in nature, kind of where you see one species turning into another or something to that effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's
Metamorphosis.
what a metamorphosis, yeah. And so I
Yeah.
felt like this was the butterfly caterpillar kind of in an alien context.
Yeah, and it made me think initially of the X-Men, because the X-Men have that whole storyline of the mutants, and then being that they're mutants, the government hunts them down and they're like criminals or whatever, they're a problem, but really they're just like the next evolution in humanity, and that's what this guy kind of is. It was also done in Voyager, Kess, after 3 seasons, evolves into some magic being as well. So yeah, it does happen every once in a while, and it's a good storyline. It works because we get it, like you said, caterpillar to butterfly. We understand the concept. We're like, okay, I could go with this. I get it.
Which leads me to another thing. Just when I think about stuff, I would also wonder about exploring the idea of devolving, and if that's going to be touched on in later episodes in Next Generation.
Yes,
But
in one of my favorite Next Generation episodes ever, Genesis. But it's
okay,
way out in the 7th season. So since it is in the 7th season, I'm okay giving you one spoiler,
yeah,
because it's like 2 years away. So the funniest part is is that Riker, they all devolve into something else, right? Riker de-evolves into basically a Cro-Magnon, and he's freaking hysterical.
is he throwing a middle finger up?
And exactly, look, he's got you, man. That's he got you in the middle finger. I mean, like, he's literally doing a full, like, look, pinky, ring
Yeah, that's a
finger,
full middle
index finger, thumb.
finger.
I mean, that's a straight up flip. There's no two ways about that.
Well,
Anyway,
that's so funny. You know, that picture looks like Geico.
yeah.
Looks like an old Geico commercial.
But he acts the hell out of it too. He's not just like, oh man, I gotta be a Cro-Magnon. This is no, he acts the hell out of it. He kills it. Troy does it really well. No spoilers. Well, I'm not even going to say actually because I don't want to give you, but there is a character that we know from the first 3 seasons that comes back, and this character is also in this episode as a fun
Devolve.
devolve thing. But let's just
Yeah,
get,
that's
and
great.
people know what that is. It's the big jump scare. This person comes out and goes like, ah, I like that. And it's a great episode. It is a magnificent episode. But who gets the home run of this episode?
um, the home run of this episode, I'm going to give it to Dr. Crusher. Yeah, I think she gave some of the best performances in this. It was really, to me, almost her story, because she was tied in with kind of the A and B storylines. So I would say, yeah, Dr. Crusher was the home run of the day.
Mm-hmm. Quick glance of other characters that de-evolved in Genesis. Pretty great stuff.
Wow.
All right. Home run of the episode. You're giving it to Crusher, so since I'm kind of 50-50, I'm going to lean the other way and give it to Geordi. I thought it was going to be a Geordi episode at the beginning. I was like, oh, cool, Geordi episode, because he had his storyline, right? But then Crusher kind of did too. It was one of those rare double storylines where they don't even have like a storyline really together. They just each have their own story. So I'm going to go with Geordi because he, no matter what he's given, he acts the hell out of it, and we love him to death for it. So that's the home run of the episode for me was LeVar
By the
Burton.
way, can I add one really quickly? I want to add, I would have liked Troy again to have been used better in this episode. I feel like she has abilities that could be used in these moments. Like this John Doe would have been somebody she tries to probe and get fishing for information, basically, like what getting a feel for him and trying to uncover his identity. I thought that could have been used a little bit more, Troy, in this episode. But
real quick, a piece of information on director Tom Banco. I looked him up because I don't remember ever seeing his name before. And the reason I'd never seen his name before is because he's only directed 2 episodes of Star Trek. This is the first one. The next one is next season, The Devil's Due. That is a very good episode. But he is no stranger to Star Trek because he is an editor. He edited 40 episodes of Next Generation, 16 of Deep Space Nine, and 57 of Voyager. That's over 100 episodes this guy's worked on. So that he's just an editor that was like, hey, can I direct an episode? I think that's pretty badass.
Yeah.
So big shout out to him. Good job.
Yeah.
Also, here are some people that have actually signed a petition for me to edit out all of my dumb jokes, but it's not going to happen. Sorry. And this was headed by Homer Frizzell, of course, also Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Moeller, Dr. Muhammad Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, My Live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manisfee, Greg K. Wickstrom out in Hawaii, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, aka Grandpa One, Chris Sternett, Chuck A., Joanna Yunker, Amiram Mizne, Nora Vega, Ed Jarrett, Steve Case, Luther Haynes, and of course, Jason Okun. All right, everybody, stick around. We will be right back with a lot more on the Seventh Rule.
Fun.
Nice.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Seventh Rule. This is the Free For All with Malissa Longo wearing an old school Seventh Rule shirt. Wow.
Yeah.
Good old days.
All kinds of stuff. So it's like, I'm putting this one on.
Got Jason M. Okun, rad background as always. Gregory Kenzo has got a cool family shirt. Looks like it's the Sisko family. Love it. Allison Leach Hyde in the Sisko Kid shirt. What color is that? Like fuchsia or something?
Mauve.
Mauve.
I mean, come on.
Duh.
How could you not know all the color names?
I know like 4 in total. Mai is live in Tokyo, probably. Maybe not, though.
Yeah.
Okay, back. Carrie Schwent, #1 Chicago Cubs fan, is also here. And the Dark Lord, Chris McGee, in a rather old school Seventh Rule shirt made by Walking Art, made by Melissa.
Like your shirt, too.
Hmm?
I like your shirt as well,
Oh,
Ryan.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rust in Peace. Great album, 1989. It's probably my favorite Megadeth album, truth be told. Fantastic. But the point of all that is Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I like how you do that too. That whole little it's kind of a Star Trek, Star Wars combo. It's like Yoda telling him.
These are not the droids you're looking for. Okay.
Yes, yes, that's exactly what you do. Exactly. I'm gonna say this episode was around a 6.4. Around a 6.4.
Anybody else have any guesses?
Let's go 7-2.
6-8.
7.
7 even. All bets are in. The answer is, I was a little surprised by this personally. 6.9. 6.9, everybody. All right. Any non-appearance mentions today? I didn't catch any.
Jason was the closest without going over.
Yeah.
Oh, was he?
6.8, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dang
Calm
it.
down.
All right.
I didn't
what
get
about,
any names.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Uh-uh.
Any some kinds of or some sorts of or 3? I didn't even catch. God, Chris is too good.
Yeah.
What are they?
We heard Riker, when he's describing the crash site to Picard, he says, from the size and shape of the wreckage, it appeared to be some kind of escape pod. Later, John Doe, when he's catching up with Picard in sickbay, says, Dr. Crusher told me you think I was in some kind of battle. And later on, still, John Doe is speaking with Dr. Crusher in 10 Forward, says, but I am on some kind of journey.
Huh.
Speaking
Very
of
nice.
Crusher, Jesus Christ,
Wow.
you crushed that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Mm.
Yeah.
With his radio voice. That was so good.
This is like the most some kind ofs then, actually. This has to be
I
up
think
there
it
with...
might be.
This got to be some
yeah,
kind of record. Yeah, thank you, Mai. Very good.
Thank you, Mai.
At the
Very
same time.
fair.
Same time.
Very fair.
All right.
Bravo.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, way too much fun, you guys. Melissa Longo, will you please get us on the right track and tell us what you thought of this episode?
Yeah. I actually like this episode for the most part, for a couple of reasons. One, I love Worf. I love Worf so much, especially when he says to Geordi, "I have much to teach you about women." I cracked up so much, and it was the beginning of the episode. I have much to teach you about women. And then when Geordi gets up to talk to Christy after he gets his confidence, and Worf says, "I have been tutoring him," he learns very quickly. Oh my gosh, Worf should always be around. So I liked that. We finally get to see O'Brien and his first kayaking injury.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not his first, but the first we see of his kayaking injury. I also think that Geordi is a much braver man than I, agreeing so quickly to be hooked up to a almost dead stranger alien species that even Beverly Crusher isn't quite. I was like, wow, you are very brave, Geordi. Very brave. But I do like the mystery that explores John Doe's species and the mystery revolving around him. And I do like seeing when species evolve or have some kind of evolution. So I like that too. There, of course, there's things that I'll leave unsaid for the next segment, but overall, I liked it.
Well, you didn't tell us about your background. Are you leaving us hanging for the next one? For the next segment?
Oh yeah, no, this is just a rehearsal for this episode with Julie Warner, who I love, by the way. I loved her. I first saw her in Doc Hollywood, and I love that movie. It's not a great movie, but I love that movie. It's a fun romantic comedy. So that's with the director and
you know what jumps out to me about your backdrop, Melissa, is that Geordi is wearing his visor with his regular street clothes, like
with
I know.
a collar.
Does he?
Big white? What is going on? That's what I thought.
Does he not take the visor off? I mean,
Well, it might
Method
be
actor.
But it could be a dress rehearsal. When Aaron was doing Star Trek Online, he had to put in his teeth so that he could get the feeling of Nog. So maybe this helps, Elvar get the feeling of Geordi. So
maybe he didn't do his makeup that day. I mean, I've had where I got in sunglasses too. So.
Yeah,
maybe he was
hungover,
and that's
maybe he's hungover. He could be a method actor too. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a story. There's a story there that we don't know yet. Jason Okun will probably tell it to us, though. Thanks, Malissa Longo. What do you got for us, Jason M. Okun? What do you think?
No story. It actually looks like LeVar is wearing this black undershirt that they wore under the uniform. So it almost looks like some sort of a robe or whatever else he's wearing. But for this episode, if I had to describe it in 3 words, it'd be good, not great. And I think it's in some ways it's a perfect example of a meat and potatoes next gen episode. And I think there are 3 different ways of looking at it, and perhaps the ratings for it could reflect that in a way. If you look at it in isolation, in and of itself, it certainly appears much better. You get a wonderful message. It looks pretty decent, and again, it's a nice episode to look at. I mean, it's certainly something that's eminently watchable. if you look at it in the grand scheme of things of Star Trek, I mean, the theme itself is repeated many times, and there's really nothing all that special about it. And even if you look at the alien himself, it's sort of a mishmash between the Organians and John Anderson's character from Survivors. Even visually, looks very, very similar to that. But then again, if you look at it as being number 25 in a 26-episode season, it's pretty decent for something like that. So again, it depends how you look at this. And yeah, in some ways, I think it's held up a lot by the performances of the actors. I think Gates is very good in it. LeVar is very good in it. Obviously, Michael gets his wine-liners. He's very good in it. And, it's put together in a fine way. I mean, Tom Benko is, he was an editor on Star Trek. And, Cirroc, I don't know if you crossed paths with him. But
I haven't. Not that I remember.
He actually is the one, he cut Survivors. So he may have picked up a point or two from there. So again, there's a lot more to be said. But overall, I think it's certainly a nice number 25 in the 26th episode, in 26-episode season.
More on that in a moment. I want to talk about that in Things Left Unsaid for sure. Thanks very much, Jason M. Okun. Gregory Kenzo is out in Hawaii. Maybe you've heard of it. What do you think of this episode?
This episode had a lot of great moments in it. I like the pairing of Geordi, Data, and Worf, the 3 gold suits at 10-4. That was them sitting at a table. I would just like to be a fly on the wall. Data just like chiming in, and it just seems like it would be a great conversation. But what this episode seemed like to me was a character change for Geordi. You know what I mean? Like it feels like the writers wanted him to be better with women. Like, I don't know if that's like their main focus, but like for him in the beginning to get like, that was the focus in the beginning, right? Like he was bad, and then it changes him mentally like that. I feel like confidence is such a abstract concept that for them to like, oh, boop, like a little surge of light, like automatically doesn't change his personality really, but makes him more confident. I don't know. It just seemed like a 180 on his character being shy around women. But anyway, I loved a lot of things about this. Chief O'Brien's first kayaking, like Malissa said. Let's see, the scene with Geordi and Data solving the puzzle of the flight path. That was actually really interesting to me. We saw the L cars and the graphics, the overlays, and yeah, I love those kinds of puzzles. So yeah. I also think this episode speaks against fascism. Like at the very end, they talk about the light. This guy behind me, being a dissident, right? Someone that's causing dissent in the government, and they're trying to eliminate them because of that. And yeah, I just have to end with like the yellow suit does not really hold up to HD. And
yep.
But yeah, it was a middling episode, but with some great moments.
Thanks very much, Greg Kenzo. Your suit does hold up, by the way. It looks great. Thank you very much for that. Allison Leach Hyde is here. What is up, Allison? What do you think of this one?
It's better than I remember it, so that was a pleasant surprise. I think I always found this one fairly boring as a kid because, it's not terribly exciting, but there's some great character development in this episode that, we hold on to O'Brien and his dislocating shoulder whenever he goes kayaking. So, we hold on to that for forever. And I wish we would have held on to more fun Worf, demanding more synthahol because we're relaxing, and not quite so much serious Worf forever after this, because Worf was here to have fun in Next Gen. So kind of missed that. And I loved the dinner scene between Beverly and Wesley. I thought it was really nice that he is an older child now for her, but they still have those family moments, maybe once a week. I don't know. But it was lovely that they had that time. They wrote it in that was something like, no, that they do this all the time. Like they check in, make sure they're each doing good, and talk about each other's lives. I do that with my family. So I think that's quite wonderful. I agree that the orange fluorescent jumpsuit on John Doe at the end does not hold up. And it had to have been terrible to film talking with that thing over your face. Like,
You could hear it.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. And where was Troy trying to help John Doe figure out his past? Like that got me. I'm like, I know Michael Piller wanted to write this episode as showing off how cool the medical system is for this time period, but that should include mental health as well. So I thought Troy should have had a larger part in this episode.
Mm-hmm. John Doe had a large part in this episode. Thank you very much, Allison Leach Hyde. Great stuff. Awesome earrings, by the way. Homer joins us. Good to see you, Homer. We'll be hearing from you in a moment.
Hello.
We were talking about you earlier, by the way. Mai is live in Tokyo, though. What's up, Mai? What'd you think of this one?
I am live in Tokyo at not even 7 o'clock in the morning, but an episode about transition, I'm all in on that. Come on, you kidding me? And big shout out to all of the allies during Pride Month, which just kicked off. Thank you so much for being you. We really appreciate it. The question is on this one: is it a physical transition? I mean, in part, yes, but there was much more. At points, it seemed almost religious or moral. There was a nuance that smacked of moral philosophy and the related ethics discussions, like, is the old style is bad, the new style is better. This combined with the healing was all maybe too much, like some of the myths in the Bible about Jesus. Was it symbolic of societal transition? John's observation in the lounge of a heterogeneous society being a positive thing and noting that it was new to him hinted at this somehow, I thought. And then the key line, at least for me, when Crusher was hitting on him, he says, I'm on some kind of journey. Whatever brought me here is all part of that journey, and I must complete it before any other consideration. And when I was a kid, a similar sentiment appeared in a song written some 17 years before this episode aired, and which I've always thought of and held as a bit of a personal anthem. And it just says, if I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? For I must be traveling on now, because there's too many places I've got to see, because I'm free as a bird now, and this bird you cannot change. So what I see here as an avid traveler for the past 4 decades, growing through my own interactions and experiences, growth which exceeds even my own surgically enhanced transition. The transition here seems more of a personal transition, something each individual must pursue. And like John, hopefully such transitions are indicative of the future of we humans as a race. That's all I got.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Mai live in Tokyo, and cool Leonard Skinner reference, by the way. Always got some good music in there.
That one right there,
Mai.
free as a bird.
There it is. Thanks, Mai. Carrie Schwent is also here. Great background, great shirt. What'd you think of this one?
I enjoyed this one. I didn't have a ton of time to make a ton of notes, but I did remembered a few things that I did quite enjoy about it. And to piggyback on the Star Wars reference from earlier, the Force is clearly strong with the Zelkonians, because that weapon is definitely was force choking everybody on that ship, which just amused me. I liked the head Zelkonian. I feel like I recognize him from somewhere, but I looked up his IMDb and nothing stood out. But I thought he had a good. I enjoyed his acting very much. Sorry, I had a very late night, so my brain is a little scattered. But before I get to my favorite parts of the episode, there is a cameo, kind of a blink and you miss it. If you don't know what he looks like when he was younger, Doug Drexler is in a scene in 10 Forward with Crusher and John Doe, and he sort of walks across the street. You get to see him for a nice, good long shot in the scene. Yep, there he is. I thought he looked great in the uniform. But the whole thing with Geordi and Chrissy Henshaw just amused me. And in between Booby Trap and this episode, she definitely changed her mind about Geordi, decided she wanted to like him after all. But I decided that he's so awkward in that scene trying to talk to her because he remembers how disastrous that date was, and he is insanely racked with embarrassment over it, to the point where he has a hard time talking to her until he gets what I called his mojo transfer from John Doe via the little doohickey on his forehead. And when she put that on John Doe's head, she couldn't have put it on his forehead. She had to put it like directly touching his brain. Like, just put that on his forehead. I'm sure it would have worked just fine. But the best part of that scene is when they're having their awkward dialogue. Worf's nonverbal acting next to them is just chef's kiss perfection. It makes me laugh every single time. And because I didn't have a ton of time, I am giving Worf co-credit on my limerick. I sort of borrowed some of his lines to help with my limerick for the week. Let the one you seek to your eyes burn bright with the fire that burns bright with delight. There is no need for words. It's your scent that's first observed, and then the spark of love will soon ignite. Thank you, Worf.
All right, great stuff. Thank you so much, Carrie Schwent, a.k.a. Crafty Bear, Andre Dawson, #1 fan. The Dark Lord, Chris McGee, is here. What's up, Chris? What'd you think of this one?
Oh, yes. Well, like the last episode, this one isn't one of my favorites. Like Jason said, it's good, not great, but it's still a noteworthy episode in case a couple of interesting firsts. As Melissa said, the episode marks the first time we learn about O'Brien's hobby of kayaking, on the holodeck. And not to spoil anything, but this is the first time Worf will be critically injured. Thankfully, John Doe was around to heal him this time. Speaking of Worf, as Carrie had mentioned, his nonverbal acting, his uneasiness while Geordi was fumbling the conversation with Christy completely mirrors my own uneasiness watching that scene. And here I thought Barclay was the shy one. And she did point out, of course, what happened in the intervening 18 or 19 episodes since Booby Trap that caused her to change her mind about him, because she clearly now has feelings for him and felt embarrassed when she hung her head in the background earlier. So I'll be curious to know what transpired there. But anyway, one thing that I noticed for the first time after rewatching the episode yesterday, I'd never noticed before, John Doe saying, "Thank you for my life" to Dr. Crusher, which is probably an unintentional reference to The Offspring from earlier in this season. After all, both were written by Renee Echevarria. Right. I'll save any others for things I've done said. For the memorable quote, there's a few of them. Of course, Worf steals the show, and I'll almost say every single one of them. My favorite, though, less talk, more synthahol.
What is that beverage, Chris?
This is my Choco Vine, the chocolate-flavored red wine that I have every time.
Oh. Well, everybody, the time has finally come. Homer Frizzell has returned to the 7th rule. You guys didn't realize it was going to be a good day today, but it is. Hello, Homer. How are you? And what do you think of this episode, by the way?
Well, thanks for having me back, first of all.
Oh, we can't hear.
No? Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I was over at Trek Long Island. I was like, I should pop in to see what's going on with the seventh rule. And I'm like, all right, what episode is it? Transfigure. I'm like, what is that? What is that? I have no recollection of this episode. And now I know why. I was going to say that Carrie told you about Doug Drexler walking across, and that's my favorite moment. So I have to go with something else. And I'll say that they did some really clever, subtle camera work on Patrick Stewart when he's reacting to John Doe and Beverly. Like just this eye work. He's looking from her to him, and it's just his eyes, but he's like, and you could tell he's like, okay, I want this guy off my ship as soon as possible. Yeah, so it's good to be back. Yeah. So
welcome back.
Thank you. No, it was good. I did not stop the episode. I did watch it straight through. I didn't take any notes clearly. And I don't know if we've got the IMDb rating yet from Cirroc. I have feelings about it. I think it should be lower, but that's it from me. Thank you.
Cirroc guessed a 6.4. Greg said 7. Jason said 6.8. They were the closest to the 6.9 actual score.
Wow.
Someone said 7.2. Who was that?
Who did that? Wow. Okay. All right.
Transition fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's it for us. Thanks, Homer. So thank you. No, wait. Whoa. That's not it.
Oh.
Jake's final take. I got so thrown off by Homer. I'm like, how can we top this? But Jake's final take, of course, tops.
Yeah, easily. Apparently,
Any final
easily.
thoughts, Cirroc?
Thanks, Homer. Appreciate you. No, I think a few words popped out in my head when I was watching this episode. Just words that actually have become really heavily part of the lexicon as of late. And one of them was the word Neuralink. When Dr. Crusher was talking about the, linking Geordi with this John Doe character, she mentioned Neuralink, which is something that I think exists now as a company name. So has kind of come into existence. The other word that jumped out to me, because it's something we talk about now, having survived the pandemic, is mRNA, and how that was being, one of the tools for implementing the vaccine. But mRNA also came up in this episode. Not something that you hear a lot of in just conversational. People just don't bring up mRNA. So I thought that was interesting that it was brought up here in 1990. It is being used as part of the technobabble, but we see that it does have some applications in the future. Also, I thought that, and this was, I guess this is a question that I had, because this character, I think Mai brought up that it was kind of like a messianic character. Was like, a healer. They even said that this character is able to bring you back to life from the dead. And I think that's something I would have liked to seen explore a little bit more, because now, flash forward, when we talk about the progenitors and their technology, it doesn't allow for bringing you back to life, according to what they're saying now as part of the canon. So this particular alien race has more power, quote unquote, than the progenitors who created all of these universes in life. So it seems a little bit interesting to me that they didn't explore further into this power that this character had. And yeah, I mean, I really will just end it there, because there was a lot of other ways that I thought that using this character as a messianic character could have furthered the storyline and made it more interesting to me. For example, if the Zalconians were persecuting this character almost like a Jesus type of character, and that context was explained or portrayed in this science fiction kind of realm, and I could have, dealt with that in its own context. But I felt like that's what they wanted to do, but they didn't really fully commit to that. And so, yeah, I wanted to see more about that. And then also, lastly, once again, I'm going to reiterate, was Geordi's awkwardness with girls or with women something that healed by this alien? Was it, and is it something that you can consider as a healable type of attribute? Is it something that you can heal from that? Shyness, I wouldn't consider it something that is something that you can heal from. So, interesting concepts all around in this episode. I think they could have went further in different directions. And I also want to lastly agree with Allison about, I would have liked to see Counselor Troy use her abilities a little bit more to backfill this kind of, memory loss, and use that to find, to probe and see what could be discovered with her psychic ability. So that's my last take on it without the bad stuff.
With that, what? I guess the bad stuff is saved for things left unsaid. When you mentioned mRNA, I thought you were going to talk about Mr. Sodium. Science joke. All right. Thank you to Homer, who's not doing the head shake yet, but we're all waiting for it. Thank you to Homer, Chris, Carrie, Mai, Allison, Greg, Jason, Melissa, for myself, Cirroc, Aaron Eisenberg, Malissa Longo. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you next time. Till then, always remember the 7th rule.